Hi, my name is Pardini, and I'm the Executive Director of Soccer Without Borders. Maybe some of you out there are transplants to Baltimore like me, but unlike me, I bet most of you had done your research to know that while Baltimore is technically on the water, it is not necessarily a place to go in the water. Being from Michigan, right about here, I thought I'd be able to enjoy the ocean on the weekends without having to gear up for a long road trip. But had I brushed up a little on my history, I would have known that Baltimore has always been more of a successful port and shipyard town than a surfside getaway. In the early years of the city, the ports of Locust and Fells Point welcomed over 2 million immigrants, which is more than triple the population of Baltimore today. According to some historical records, Baltimore ranks second only to Ellis Island as a destination for arriving immigrants to the United States. What's interesting is that while people were arriving in large numbers to Baltimore's ports looking for rail, mill, and shipyard jobs, it was on these very same railroads that large numbers of arrivals decided to move out of Baltimore in search of greener pastures. But the story doesn't end there. So while many immigrants only passed through the city, many others chose to make Baltimore their home, as you can see from this graph. In a span of 70 years, Germans, Irish people, Polish people, Italians, and other groups continually increased the population. And evidence of this settlement is still seen in the neighborhoods, the architecture, and places of worship all over the city today. So traditionally, Baltimore has been a welcoming city to newcomers. But you could even take it a step further and say that Baltimore, like many places in the United States, became Charm City that we know today because of newcomers. So let's fast forward to the modern day, where Baltimore City's population has been on the decline, resulting in an erosion of Baltimore's tax base, property values, and federal funding allocations. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake has proposed a solution, specifically identifying new Americans, which includes immigrants, refugees, and asylees, to help curb our population problem, and recognizes these newcomers as a potential asset to the future of our city. To this end, she has set a goal of attracting 10,000 newcomer families to the city over the next 10 years. She has even gone so far as to endorse the Maryland Dream Act in this November's election, which allows undocumented students that meet a strict criteria to pay in-state tuition at public colleges and universities. In addition, the city has instituted several other policies demonstrating a commitment to opening Baltimore to new Americans. And to this end, the city has been featured on world news sources such as the BBC, NBC, and CNN supporting these efforts. So, who are these 10,000 people, you may ask? Well, they're the kids in this photo from Soccer Without Borders. They're also immigrants from El Salvador, refugees from Burma, asylees from West Africa, but they're also that family that lives down the street from you, the nurse at your doctor's office, the cashier at your grocery store. The immigrant, refugee, and asylee kids and families we work with through Soccer Without Borders arrive in Baltimore with stories ranging from the incomprehensibly tragic to the predictable economic determinants. But what they all have in common is their pursuit of the proverbial American dream. Their reality upon arriving is often far different than what they had envisioned. Some families we work with struggle with the daily tasks that most of us take for granted, like turning on a light switch or a gas stove, vaccinating their kids for school, navigating the MTA, and so on. They face these challenges all while trying to learn a new language and understand the culture of Baltimore's unique urban landscape. And just like everyone else, immigrants, refugees, and asylees pay their taxes. They want to send their kids to good schools. They want good jobs so they can afford to pay bills. And they want a better life for their kids and grandkids. And did I mention they pay their taxes? People often compare crafting policies to sausage making, in that you don't want to witness either process. And policies alone won't be enough to turn Baltimore into the welcoming home for new Americans it needs to be. It will take interest and efforts across all sectors for Baltimore to successfully retain these newcomers so they don't head for trains days gone by. No longer can we care only for ourselves, our own insular family units, or our immediate neighbors. We must invest in the city. We must commit to doing our share of the work. We must recognize that newcomers bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise that can propel Baltimore forward. Soccer Without Borders has seen the success of bringing kids together from a dozen different countries and speaking just as many languages. These student athletes have shown that grit, time, and effort it takes to excel on the soccer field and in the classroom. But perhaps, more importantly, they have learned to listen and understand people of different races, religions, and cultures. In short, and on a small scale, these kids practice the art of welcoming. In this election year, I keep hearing about trickle-down government and trickle-down economics. But political leanings aside, I hope we can all agree that trickle-down welcoming of new Americans in Baltimore City will be doomed to fail, no matter how many executive orders the mayor signs into effect. Welcoming newcomers must start with its residents. It must start with us here tonight. You can start by tutoring a neighborhood kid, making sure to get out and vote, having a newcomer over for dinner, or a dozen other small actions. But imagine the impact of 10,000 Baltimore residents took it upon ourselves to perform one welcoming act to a new American. I have no doubt we can ignite Baltimore. Thank you.